Welcome back, listeners. Yes, it's another episode of the Steel Target Paint Podcast. Steve and I flipped it around this week, and we're actually doing this one early in the morning on his drive into work. Steve, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Jeff, how you doing? A little sleepy this morning?
A little sleepy, yeah. 5 minutes ago, I was dreaming about shooting sub 1.5s on Smoke and Hope, and then my alarm went off, and your text message came off, and I came back to reality, and that's why we're recording right now.
So let me guess. At night, you count Steel Target paint.
Yes,
Steel
exactly.
Target plates.
Yes, exactly. You run through. It's like, okay, 101. That's 5 to go. Okay, shoot 5 to go in your head. 102 showdown. Okay, let's just count that. If you make it to 108 roundabout, then and you're not asleep, then you start again.
I like it.
Well, Steve, couple of topics that have come up with me. I'd just like to throw something out there. One of them has to do with match etiquette on a couple of things. It's a family sport. It is a sport, but it's also a hobby to some, and I think a lot of people are maybe not aware of the differences between like a level 1 club match, a level 2 area match, or a level 3 area match. Level 2 would be a state match or a special match like the West Florida Steel Challenge Championships or the South Georgia, which again isn't happening this year because that's going to be the area match, or your level 3, which is an area, your level 4, which is Worlds. Do you know what the major differences between these matches are when it comes to Steel Challenge?
I think that there's been some rule changes over the last couple of years, and let's talk about the coaching or being able to call hits. Let's walk through that because I think there's a little bit of a difference there, right?
It's level 1 club matches. You are allowed to call hits and misses. I believe the way it's written in the rules is that the competitor can ask to have hits or misses called. But long story short, at a level 1 match, you're allowed to call whether there was a hit or a miss. Any other match, you're not allowed to call hits or misses.
Sure.
It's on the competitor. And when I say you, I mean the RO, and that's usually who's doing it. It's probably bad form for a competitor or spectator not shooting to be calling anything. It should be done by the range officer at any level. And then really, there's nothing different.
Jeff, let me ask you this. This actually came up with somebody sent me a note on Facebook a couple of weeks ago. I think you and I may have talked about it. I'm not sure. But let's say that you go to a local match and it's a 6-stager. They've got a morning session and an afternoon session. Can I shoot rimfire pistol open at a local match in the morning? And then can I shoot rimfire pistol open again in the afternoon at a local match?
Great question. And the answer is no. It is the same match, and you are not allowed to shoot the same division in the same match. Now, if they were to do something that said on Saturday, it's our Saturday match, and on Sunday, it's a new match, that's different. But yes, you're only allowed to shoot a division once per match, regardless of the session that you're shooting in. So that's a really good question. I know that I've seen some stuff floating around on that, and it's good to clear that up, both for competitors and match directors listening. Now here's a good one for you. Level 1 match. And you shoot a lot of level 1 matches. I mean, we both try to get to the majors. but I know you shoot a lot of local matches. I run 2 local matches a month at the WAC. The rule is there at every level that painting should happen on every plate.
Right.
And I've shot local level 1 matches where they're, let's just say, if you want to paint, you can paint, but we're not going to worry about it. Now, the interesting thing about that is one, it takes out your ability to call edge hits, which I love edge hits. I don't know about you. I love them because it means it's a hit.
Yeah, I hear you.
And if you stay on top of things, and this is something that I express to the people at the WAC, this is a volunteer sport, and there's always people that are going to come out and help set up. And of course, everybody helps break down. But when you're shooting, everybody should be involved. Now, not everybody's qualified to run the timer. I get that. I'm not sure about other clubs, but at our club, I try to get as many people to learn how to run the pad as possible because it helps.
Sure.
And it's very easy with the commander timers, the Bluetooth capability. You're hitting a button to pull the time in. Very simple and straightforward. But painting is the next thing, and painting that's not done, I guess the word is efficiently, can drag a match down time-wise. There's no doubt about it. If you're not on deck running the pad, running the timer, or have just shot, you're a painter. And I don't care how many guns you're shooting in a session, you're a painter. And this happened at the Worlds the last year I rode, which was about 5 years ago. Morning session. And can you remind the people in Alabama how many people tend to shoot in the morning? Do you know the number? How many guns?
A
On a
lot.
squad?
Oh yeah, it's probably the average is probably like people have kids. It's 1.5 guns per. No, it's probably it's probably 2 guns per squad.
It's 2 guns per squad, but in the morning session at Alabama, it's an 8-gun squad.
Yeah,
We don't
correct.
start till
correct.
9 o'clock.
Yep.
And we had a squad roll up, and it was 4 shooters.
Right.
And they were all shooting 2 guns. And and this is outer limits. So it's a stage that, needs to be turned over. So I just, grabbed the shooters beforehand. I don't think I was a CRO of the stage at the time, but I was just an RO. But we got everybody together, and I had mentioned it to the CRO, and the CRO had said, yeah, you can say that to them. And I just said, it would help the squad if everybody reloaded after you're done with the whole stage. The whole squad's done with the whole stage.
Yep.
And that way we can ensure that everybody is helping paint, and we're turning the squad over. Because outer limits can be a slowdown, even though you're only shooting 4 strings instead of 5. It's that walk down to the 35-yard plate that can slow things down. I know because for me, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because even if you think about it this way, if you're shooting 1 gun, you actually have to go out and paint twice.
Yes.
Because you're sharing that responsibility with somebody, right?
Yep.
So if you're shooting 4 guns, you really got to go out there and shooting 2 guns, you really have to go out there and paint 4 times. And certainly there's other roles and responsibilities with people running the the clock, the timer, the running the pad, those kind of things. But that's kind of my expectation. And certainly, situation that I heard about recently is that you've got somebody that's for whatever reason doesn't want to paint, can't paint. And if you have a squad of 5 people, everybody's shooting 2 guns, and you got 2 people that can't paint, that's a pretty tough situation. So everybody, that puts the pressure on the other 3 people, let alone if you got somebody running the timer and tablet, so on and so forth. And 1 or 2 people aren't involved. That means that pretty much everybody's got to paint,
You know,
75% of the time, and
yeah,
that's not competitor equity.
can't.
That's
Oh,
tough.
absolutely, absolutely. Can't paint. Um, I don't see. Okay.
Sure.
If you're on your feet all day shooting, walking between stages, let's face it, big plates at Smoke and Hope are only 9 yards away at maximum. Okay.
Right.
Accelerator, the front 2 plates are 10 yards away.
Right.
Okay. Roundabout, the front 2 plates and the stop plate are only 10 yards away. You can go down the line. Yeah. Okay. Speed option. Maybe you're not going down and painting the 35-yard plate, but that doesn't mean you can't pick up a can of paint and
Yeah.
paint the front plates, and somebody else
Right.
gets that and express
Right.
that at a match. Hey,
Yeah.
my knees are bad. My ankles are bad. I can help paint. I'm just going to do the front ones.
Yep.
We've
For
had
sure.
instances at matches I've been at where it's been noted to me as the match director that there aren't people helping. And what I found is the best thing to do is to just very nicely walk up to them and put a can of paint in their hand and just say, this is a volunteer sport and I need you to help.
Yeah. Yep.
Not mean, just helping them understand. And I'll tell you, I have another little speech because, as love rangestore.net, love everything they do. At times they've had an issue getting the supply of paint to then distribute to everyone. And so we were running low on paint, and I expressed to everyone, I want every plate painted. Just make sure you're painting the correct way. And, you remind people that, and it's never a problem. So that would be my recommendation for anyone that's having an issue with that. Just be nice and just express to them it's a volunteer sport and everybody needs to help.
So Jeff, hopefully it doesn't get to this point, but what happens if you've got some folks that you give them the friendly talk, and they're still not paid? What do you do as a competitor outside of, because you've already had a, let's call it, interactive conversation with somebody or somebody's, and friendly reminders? What's your next step? What do you think the people listening to the podcast should do in that situation?
Don't take it upon yourself as a competitor to solve the problem.
Agreed.
It's not your match.
Yep.
You're just a shooter in the match. Say something to the RO, say something to the match director. Based on the size of the match, that match director may or may not be the range master. Say something to the range master.
Yep.
That's their responsibility that's match management and start again. Match management is their responsibility, not yours.
Yep.
Okay. And lead by example, continue to make sure you're painting, you're helping, you're doing what needs to happen. I know, I do it. I've seen Zach Jones do it at his matches when he ran them. I pick up a can of paint all the time and run down. Sometimes not even the squad that I'm on, because as the match director at the WAC, I tend to spend a little time walking around, making sure everybody's doing good. You know, my standard line, shaking hands and kissing babies and just being nice. Yeah, grab a can of paint those front cans in roundabout, lead by example. But yeah, as far as a competitor's concerned, go to a match official and let them take care of it. That's their responsibility.
Good deal. I think hopefully that helps at least a couple of people, maybe in some situations where they have
Yeah,
this type of issue. But and
yeah,
there's ways to do it in a friendly way,
exactly.
especially if there's some younger folks that end up being on their phone or whatever at a match. I'll challenge them to go out and run and paint some targets, and there's ways to get them friendly, engaged, and get the mission accomplished. And but
Well,
yeah, it has happened before, right? At some of these matches,
absolutely.
and the other important thing, and you hit on it, a little bit, but at 8 stage local match or even at a major match, pace is usually 30 minutes per squad, right? Per
Usually.
per per
Yep.
stage,
Yep.
and so the fastest match I've probably shot with full squad, it's probably about 3.25 or 3.5 hours, somewhere in there. Typical match is, I think most people plan for a 4 hour session, but that 4 hour session can turn into a 6 hour session real quick if you have just one squad that bottlenecks because they don't paint, and that's not
100%.
that yeah, that takes a fun time shooting at the range to not so fun time shooting at the range pretty darn quick.
And you nailed it too. It has nothing to do with the skill level of the competitors.
Right.
Okay. Um, the difference between a 5-second smoke and hope shooter and a 2-second smoke and hope shooter, when you're talking about flipping that person through the line, has nothing to do with, turning that shooter over to the next shooter, has nothing to do with the speed the shooters are shooting at.
Right.
It has everything to do with getting the stage reset. It can have a little bit to do with the shooters make ready. You have the rules state you have 1 minute to make ready. And that gets stretched a little bit. And then, I always have fun with people when they're going through their, for strings 2 through 5, and they're spending another 30 seconds retargeting plates and doing 17 draws and all this. And I'm like, I always joke with them. I say, if you're not ready now, what you're doing isn't going to help. you know,
You know,
yeah,
do you know off the top of your head what the make ready is it a minute that
1
competitors
minute.
get, or is it?
It's 1 minute.
Yep.
Yep.
What about in between strings?
I don't
Think
believe
that's
there's
in the
any
rules.
specific
Yeah.
time associated with in between strings. But my understanding is, you're loading the gun. I tend to load the gun and just kind of bring it up and sweep all the plates, remind my brain that they're all at, the center of the plates at 5 foot, except for pendulum, and get in the ready position. I'm ready to go. And like I said, I have seen it where I've set it as an RO where in between strings, people are just taking too long. And you
Yeah.
just gracefully say, you're taking too long between strings. Because that can turn that 3-minute flip into 5-minute flip without even thinking about it.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
So
I haven't seen that as an issue, and I haven't really seen the make ready be an issue, but hey, you never know. You
well,
never know.
as a match director, the other thing I'll do is not do it in front of all the other competitors when the person's on the line. If it's something I notice, I don't pull them aside. I don't do it right there. Afterwards, I'll pull them aside, just have a conversation, giving them the insights that's taking a lot of time for them to do what they're doing. There's no need to do it on the line in front of everybody. That we don't need to solve it that way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
pull them aside and say something away from everyone. Just have a one-on-one conversation. Maybe grab another range officer just so there's another witness there. You don't want anything to get heated, but should something get heated, there's another, match official there, and just be nice and just say, hey, this is
Yep.
nothing personal. This is going to help your squad's falling a little behind. Part of it is this, and if you could help us move this match along, that would be great. And 99 times out of 100, that works.
Right.
So,
all right, enough on that. Let me
Sure.
tell you a little bit about. So I started a new job this week, and unfortunately, this is going to cut into my live fire training. So I've started, and a little bit of foresight. So I started to do a little bit of dry fire over the course of my career. I really haven't done a lot of dry fire practice, but what I've been working on. And we've talked about this before. Sometimes to be a good teacher, you got to be a good student too. And so I think that without getting into all the secret sauce, but a lot of practice and those kind of things is to be able to see faster. And you got to be honest with yourself. Oh yeah, I just I set my par time for 1.2 seconds, and I'm knocking it up. Yeah, okay. No, that's speed option. Just yeah. So you got to be realistic with what you're able to see. But I can't wait to shoot my next, because I haven't spent a ton of time. So it's been about 3-4 days a week, even just 15-20 minutes. And what I've noticed is that I'm seeing things just a little bit quicker and more clear than I've seen in a while. So I'm looking forward to that. But two observations that I'll share with you. The first one is that I think is pretty interesting is that I've made some slight adjustments. Let's say rimfire rifle open as an example. That's what I'm dry firing. That I've made some adjustments to, let's just say, how I hold the gun, how I stand, and what I'm
huge.
doing. And I'll leave it at that. But my focus is to keep the dot as level and soft as possible and shooting at a fast rate. So what that means is that the faster you go, sometimes what happens is that the dot goes up and down and kind of goes all over the place. Well, it's good to be able to shoot fast and see fast, but if the dot's moving all over the place, that's not really helping you that much, because it depends on the pace of how you're shooting and what you're seeing. You may be off the plate, under the plate, to the right of the plate, to the left of the plate, and that won't tell on you until you actually load the gun and shoot the plates, right?
Correct.
So what I've been focusing on is being able to move the gun and try to keep the gun as flat as possible. Despite popular opinion, most of the stages are really a horizontal line, and so you got to keep the gun relatively flat. Don't get me wrong, I think it's good even to practice with some elevation changes on some stages, like Showdown as an example. Typically when people set up plates on Showdown at a local match, the back plates, even the bottom of the back plate, may be slightly over the top of the front plates, and that's not correctly set up. But you'll run into those types of situations. But that's what I've been working on, and boy, just a couple little changes here and there, and everybody's body structure and all that kind of thing is different. But really focusing on keeping that dot flat and moving, man, I'm excited to shoot a match and see what kind of results I can get there.
Well, yeah, everything you expressed, I've done some dry fire more in the center fire than I have with like rimfire rifles. Really focusing on my draw. And to your point, dry fire, yeah, I have a sub-second draw on every stage. Because I'm awesome. you get to live and it's like, wait a minute, I had a sub-second on this dry firing. Why am I suddenly now at 1.5 seconds? Well, it's real life, buddy. But it to your point, keeping level, body position is huge. I haven't been able to shoot much this week, but I've still had my training classes, and we were doing speed option last night. And speed option is actually a perfect example of how your foot position can really make a difference. Okay. So I had one of my good friends shooting with me on Monday, and he was lining up with his, I'm trying to think of the best way to express this. His left foot was in the left corner of the box, and his right foot was probably halfway back in the box from the right side. So he was
So
very angled and square to plates 1 and 2. Now, if
okay.
you look at speed options specifically, half the plates are on the left side of center.
Yep.
So he was most comfortable in a most natural shooting position, shooting plates 1 and 2. And then he was in a very, what I would consider, I mean, more of a weaver stance on the other 3. Okay.
Right.
And he wasn't doing bad. He was shooting,
Let's back up for just a minute.
Yeah.
He was angled towards his first 2 shots or plates 1 and 2.
His first 2 shots was actually plates 3 and 4.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
I'm tracking with you.
Yep. So I had him square off to the box, which is of course square to the stage. And one of the things, he was fast, but he was having inconsistency issues with the stop plate.
Right.
He was either coming in too slow to hit it, or when he was coming in hard, he was going past it. I said, well, let's change your stance a little. Let's use your body to help stop you. Okay. And so I got him in the position, and he's like, oh, this feels really unnatural. I'm like, don't think, just shoot.
Right.
Consistently 0.15 to a quarter second faster every string. And it wasn't just for 1 or 2 strings. It was like for the next 6 to 8 strings. It made that difference.
Yeah, it's tough because I do the same thing. I square it more towards my natural point of aim I want on plate 2. But it makes the first shot really awkward, and that's why my buddy Tom Nealon, I wish I was left-handed like him, because his first shot on speed option I'm very envious of, because with a lefty coming over there, it's very different than the awkward righty coming over to that.
Absolutely. They get
to that plate.
They, the opposite draw is the advantage the righties have on, say, a 5 to go.
Yeah.
Drawing on plate 1 as opposed to a lefty.
Yep.
It's that that gun is coming over and up to get under your cheek on say, for a righty on speed option. So
one of the things that I've noticed about dry firing, which was, I would maybe an aha moment, because I've shot these stages, let's just say more than a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to pick 3 plates visually,
Steve,
what are the
wait, hold on, my alarm is going off here. Let me shut up my alarm. There we go. Okay, so getting back.
So if you
speed
had,
option.
well, just in general, back to dry firing.
Oh, back to dry fire. Okay.
If you had to look and visually see, because it actually does take up quite a bit of space if you have them spread out horizontally.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got every stage set up in my basement. And the interesting part is to actually look at the size of the targets, because you're standing in the box and everything kind of looks more 3-dimensional, but dry firing, it's all 2-dimensional.
Yep.
What targets do you think are the smallest? Of all the stages.
It's a trick question.
Not really. It's just
Well,
interesting
and here's
'cause
why
I've
I
never
say
thought about it before.
here's why I say it's a trick question. Okay.
Uh-huh.
If you look at Showdown
Yes.
and you go, well, the 10-inch plates are at 10 yards. And the 18 by 24s are at 25 yards.
25 yards. Yep.
The 12-inch plates at 10. If you get down to where your eyes, and let's just say the stage is set up perfectly level. Okay.
Right.
So the center of every plate is sitting at 4'6" for the 18 by 24s or the 12-inch plates, and it's at 4'7" for the 10-inch plates. But you get down there and you look at that, you will find that most plates take up the exact same space visually.
That's exactly right. You're correct. And I would also say, and this isn't my question, but I would also say that dry firing Showdown by far should be the fastest stage because of the size of the plates visually.
Yep.
And how condensed the array is. But anyway, back
absolutely.
back to the small plates. So what are the smallest plates?
10-inch.
It's actually kind of interesting. What? Visually. Visually.
I would say for the entire stage, I'd probably go with pendulum.
It's actually not.
Really?
So the fourth plate on 5 to go is one of the smallest plates in all of Steel Challenge because it's a 10-incher out. You check my memory here.
Yards.
It's probably 18 yards. Yeah. And then you go to speed option. The plate number 2 and the stop plate are pretty small. So it's pretty interesting visually with some of the plates that people, that plate number 3 on Accelerator is not overly large. It's not overly small, but it's interesting when you look at Accelerator. The exact opposite question, and it's really plate number 2 on Accelerator. That thing's it's like a sign of a barn. It's like, how do I ever miss that plate? So it's interesting because I've always told people shooting Accelerator, you got all 3 plate presentations in front of you, different sizes. You've got some medium shots, you got the fastest shot, and then you've got one of the smallest shots on Steel Challenge all on one stage. That's why people struggle with Accelerator, because the first plate's really a medium shot, second plate's a really fast shot, and then if you shoot it left and then you come in 4-3 stop, then you go back to more of a medium type shot to a slower shot to somewhat of a faster shot. But it is interesting why I've tried to really push my pace on 5 to go, and I'm struggling on plate number 4 to shoot it the time that I think I need to shoot it in, and it's because the size of the plate, it looks like a freaking Tic Tac on a stick. Yep.
And that's what the dry fire is gonna help you with too, because maintaining that level transition, okay, yep. And yes, you're not going to feel the recoil of the gun, but by maintaining a level transition and you take away the dot wobble, okay,
yeah,
which you're inducing. Let's face it, in dry fire, any wobble you have in the dot, you're inducing. Yeah, it's not because there's nothing being fired. By taking away that, and this is something I've always said, where the top shooters don't look for perfection. Correct. Meaning they're able to see the dot on the plate faster, make the decision to press the trigger and move on than the average shooter.
Right.
Where the average shooter tends to be they're more it's not sight focused, they're more perfection focused. Like they're admiring their shot almost.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, and I've always one of my latest, I've always got my little sayings, and everybody always says, well, the kids see faster. And you mentioned it, I got to see faster. Well, sight is based on a universal constant called the speed of light. Everybody sees at something at exactly the same rate. The difference is how well your brain processes what you're seeing.
Yes. Yep.
And that's what you're training.
Yep. Yep.
That's what that dry fire will train. And I think it's great. In fact, you may have inspired me. I do get to the range a lot, although I only get to practice usually once or twice a week, as opposed to when I'm actually training people. But I have a set of dry fire targets that I'm gonna have to figure out how I can get them stuck onto the wall properly so I don't ruin them, and start dry firing, because I know when I was doing it for center fire, especially with a draw, it made a huge difference when I finally got to live fire, because you get that motion, and I'm still let's just say the dot's not always in the exact same spot every time.
Hey, let me share this one small quick piece of insight, and
All right.
then we'll call it a wrap. But
All right.
so I don't shoot pistols as much, but I will say through the exercise of dry fire, if you're not prepping the trigger, especially on, well, pretty much every stage, boy, it really introduces a lot of dot movement when I don't. And I think that's some bad habits that I've developed on shooting rifles for a long period of time. And I still shoot a pistol okay, but in order to step up my game shooting a pistol, I need to focus on prepping the trigger, because what happens is if I'm slapping it at all, it introduces some dot movement that shouldn't be there. So it's very interesting. It cleans up a lot with a good trigger prep when I remember to do it. So anyway,
shoot a revolver.
Oh yeah,
you'll understand how important trigger prep is.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
All right, well, Steve,
man,
I'm guessing
yeah,
you're about at work. We've been talking for a little bit here. Hopefully your driving was enjoyable. I appreciate you taking the time to talk this morning. I think it was good. I appreciate you texting me and waking me up and reminding me that we were going to do this. So
you're welcome, sir.
You have a great day. And hey, how do we end every podcast?
Go out to rangestore.net, use discount code STPodcast10 for 10% off. Have a good one, Jeff. Good talking with you.
Thanks, Steve. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.